Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Tillman coming back to you guys again with some updates of some of the bills that were recently passed in the most recent election. Now, I want to go to the great state of Oregon right now, and the reason we're going to go there is because one of the bills that passed was the legalization of a lot of your hardcore drugs. Now, before we move forward, I have to get you to realize that I understand that why some of you guys may think that this is a step in the right direction. And the reason I'm going to go there first is because this is some of the logic that I've heard. Hey, if we legalize certain things, then what we do is we reduce this prison pipeline and putting people in the system, and we can now focus on getting them a lot more drug treatment that they actually need. That idea is absolutely correct. I can understand why you think that way, is because we have to understand that people that deal with drug addiction do need some type of help or treatment in order to get off of that drug. But we got to go to the flip side, and we also have to go to the reality of this situation. Is this genuinely going to work out the way it's perceived or the way it was proposed to work out? If you ask me, I don't think it necessarily is. And here's why. Until you've actually been directly or indirectly impacted by a person that is under the influence of drugs or has an addiction to drugs, you don't really see the impact that it takes on that person or the impact that it takes on the family and the impact that it has on the city that they live in. As I've been a police officer over the course of the last 7 years, I've got to see this firsthand as I've dealt with people that are strung out on heroin, that are strung out on Oxycontin, that are strung out on methamphetamine. You name it, I've seen it, and it ruins families. It ruins people because they can't get off of it. And when I go on these calls for service and I arrest somebody for being under the influence of a controlled substance, heroin or methamphetamine, I do know one thing that stands true. Is that for that brief moment, that brief few hours, however long it is that they're going to be in the county jail because I arrested them for it, that's 8, 10 hours, sometimes 2 days, you name it, where I know that they may not be using that drug, at least because they're in the jail. Now, is it possible that some drugs get into the jail? It's possible, but I guarantee you it's a lot harder to get drugs in prison or in jail or in county jail than it is on the street. So when we start to legalize these things, is it really going to offer the help that we need? I can tell you when they do go to jail, what you can do from that moment on is actually start to work on treatment facilities and getting them the treatment that they need in order to get, off of these drugs that they're addicted to. Here's one of the last points I'm going to bring up and I'm going to make. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the person themselves to make that decision that they no longer want to use the drug anymore. So if we do say, hey, look, you can go out there, we're going to give you resources to get off these drugs and become less addicted. Are they going to take those services? I'm going to use one last example to bring my point home. We have a few people in the city that I work at that are homeless. And those people, we've tried many things to get them off the street. We've given them vouchers to some of the local motels. We've actually given them vouchers to some of the treatment facilities. We've taken them out of the city and gotten them into rehab. And then they'll end up back on our streets about 2 or 3 weeks later. And we have discussions with them. We have conversations. And what we've come to find out is some of these people just actually like living on the street. So even though we may have solutions for them, even though we may have figured out how we can get them off the street, they don't necessarily want to be off the street themselves. So it's the same for somebody that's addicted to drugs. We can offer all of these different resources and rehab places for them to go and get off of drugs. But if they don't make up that decision themselves, they're still going to be addicted. So do we want to make it a lot more easily accessible to them in order to get these drugs, as opposed to at least having some type of punishment that says, hey, look, if you're on these drugs, this is what's going to happen to you. So with that being said, I just want you guys to question yourself. This goes back to our motives. The motive may be right. Your heart may be right. Your heart is in the right place if you want people to get more treatment. I absolutely agree with you. But I can tell you, and I have many success stories of people that I've actually taken to jail for being under the influence of some type of controlled substance. And in that time that they were arrested, they came out and actually changed their life around. Does that happen for everybody? It doesn't happen for everybody. But I can at least tell you for a split second in time, they actually removed from the street because they were forced to. And then at that time is when they actually said and realized, I need to change my life. If there's no punishment on anything anymore, people are going to use as much as they want. And unfortunately, some people are going to die in the case of using. I've gone on so many different overdoses in the last few months because we were dealing with fentanyl and, all these other drugs that are being laced with other drugs. It's just becoming an epidemic. And so we also have to reevaluate what's going on in the decisions we make, because the decisions we make today are going to affect our children's tomorrow. Thanks again and God bless.